Hey everyone, this is Sean here bringing you another how-to video. Today we're going to be installing a Ricochet aluminum skid plate on a 2020 and newer Kawasaki KLX 300R. I do believe this video will apply to the standard 300 dual sport and also the 300 SM models as well. So let's take a look at what we got here. You can see here's the Ricochet Offroad Armor skid plate. The model number we have today is 266. You can see there's the aluminum skid plate itself. Comes with some hardware, nice little Ricochet sticker, and some instructions. Specifically, what we're going to be using is an 8mm socket and ratchet, and then a T30 Torx bit, and I happen to have a nice Cornwell screwdriver that I'll be installing those bolts with that have the T30 heads on them. You can see we've got a little bit of hardware, couple of clamps, and a couple of small bolts with some washers, and again our instructions here. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do if we make our way over to the bike is underneath there's the factory skid plate. So we're going to remove these 8mm bolts, 2 up front and 2 in the back. So let's get a head start on this and remove those bolts. Alrighty, factory skid plate removed. You can just set that hardware aside. Now we're going to actually mount this Ricochet skid plate, and the instructions say to start with the 2 center bolts. These are going to be the 6x30 bolts, so grab those. Again, T30 head on each of those bolts. Use your washers, and they'll mount right where the front factory bolts were for the stock skid plate. Once you do that, then we're going to move on to the 1-inch clamps with also again T30 heads on those, and the 1-inch clamps will sit right there, if you can see, on the frame, and they'll just clamp in. You see I got one of them, and something that Ricochet does recommend is using some blue Loctite on this hardware just to help make sure that it stays in place. Of course, you can imagine a skid plate is going to see a lot of damage, and certainly the motorcycle is going to vibrate quite a bit, and it just helps keep that hardware in place. So let's get these clamps installed and we'll move on to the next step. Alrighty, now with the 1-inch clamps mounted up front, you can see I've got them fairly loose yet right now. Same with these ones on the bottom. And the last step is going to be going back here, and again looking at where those factory mounting tabs are. We're going to take the last bolts included in our hardware set, and we're going to line the back of the skid plate up, and we're going to tighten those down, and then we're essentially going to go back through after we've got all our hardware installed, and we're going to go around the bike and essentially tighten all the hardware, starting with the rear mounts and then working our way from back to front. We're going to go ahead and tighten all that up. And what's nice is this Ricochet skid plate does allow those bolt holes, those mounting holes, have slots in them. So you can adjust the skid plate the way it mounts slightly to make sure that it's not rubbing where it shouldn't be, or make sure that everything's lined up where it needs to be. So once you've done that, again, it doesn't hurt to put a little blue Loctite on all these bolts. If you didn't do it through the mounting process, you can take them out one by one and put a little blue Loctite on the end of those bolts and cinch everything back up, and you should be ready to rock. Again, this is the how-to video to install a Ricochet aluminum skid plate for a 2020 through present KLX 300R. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care.